right, step number one, we're going to pour 1 gallon or 4 liters of whole milk into our pot. It's important to sterilize the pot, any utensils, things like that beforehand, and also give it a spritz and wipe down with some white vinegar. That'll help kill any cultures that may be in the pot from the air or other food particles or things like that. So we're going to go ahead and heat this to 90 degrees. And once it's there, we'll move on to the next step. All right, so we are at about 90 degrees. As you can see, we're about half a degree off. That's okay. You want to try and get as close to 90 as possible for this step because temperature does matter. So we're right at about 90 degrees. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go ahead and add our calcium chloride, and we're going to stir for about 15 to 20 seconds. Just go ahead and pour it in. Now, the calcium chloride is diluted in water, as it says in the ingredients list at the beginning of the video. So make sure to not forget that step. So we're going to do about 15-20 seconds of stirring here. And you can set a timer if you want. All right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add our culture. And we're using a 1/16 of a teaspoon. Whoop. And we're gonna go ahead and stir that in for about a minute 15 or so. And that's our minute. So go ahead and stop stirring. Kind of calm the milk, keep it from moving. And at this stage, we are going to let it rest for about 45 minutes. Spray down my lid with vinegar here. Now, like I said, before you use anything, you want to spray it down with vinegar, give it a little spritz and a wipe. That kills any cultures, bacteria, things like that. So we're going to let it sit covered for about 45 minutes. All right, our 45 minutes is up, so we'll go ahead and take the lid off. And we're gonna go ahead and add in our vegetable rennet. Now this is diluted into 1/8 cup of non-chlorinated water, just as it says in the ingredients list. So we're gonna go ahead and stir this for no longer than a minute. So I always do about 40-45 seconds. This is what's gonna harden up the cheese and get it to kind of curd. So you want to do it, like I said, just under a minute. And remember to spray your spoon or your ladle with vinegar before you dunk it back in the milk. Always remember to spritz and wipe with vinegar. All right, that's our 40 seconds. All right, and from this stage on, we're gonna let it sit another 45 minutes. So lid back on. See you in 45. Okay, it's been 45 minutes. So what we're gonna do now is check for a clean break. And what I mean by that is a clean separation with the curd. So I'm gonna stick my knife in here and just kind of push to the side, and it's not quite clean. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let it sit for about 10 more minutes. You can check in intervals of 5 if you'd like. I like to do 10 minutes and let it firm up a little, so we'll check back in about 10 minutes. All right, so it's been about 10 minutes. We're gonna go ahead and check for the clean break, and it's there. So what we're gonna do now is kind of the fun part. We're gonna go ahead and cut the curd into about 1/2-inch pieces. Make sure you get all the way down. And try, if you can, some people have a curd cutter. That's fun to say. If not, just use the back edge of a knife. That's nice and easy. And just take your time. All right, so we've kind of let the curds heal a little bit. Let it sit for just a sec with the Farmhouse Cheddar, you don't need to let it sit or heal for very long. So just a minute or two will be fine. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and gently stir. And this is when you'll notice the bigger separation of the curds from the whey. That looks awesome, doesn't it? I love that every time. So what we're going to do is just gently stir. And we're going to do this for about 30 minutes. Nice and gentle. Now, during this 30 minutes, we're going to bring the heat up to about 100 degrees Fahrenheit over the course of that 30 minutes. So every, I don't know, 10 minutes or so, you know, increase the temp, check the temperature. Often, like I said, temperature does matter when making cheese. So we will see you in about 30 minutes. All right, so we have finished the 30 minutes of gentle stirring. And as you can see, we're about 100 degrees on the nose, a little bit over. That's okay. So what we're gonna do now is let the curds rest for about 10 minutes. And the funnest part is coming right up. All right, so now that it has rested for about 10 minutes, what we're gonna do is we're gonna drain the curds into our cheesecloth. I like to use the ladle, keeps it a little neater, I guess. And we just go right in. Now, what's cool about the Farmhouse Cheddar, at least in my opinion, is that it doesn't need to do or go through the cheddaring process. You know, where you have to flip the curds every so often and do that quite a few times. So this actually does not need that, which is nice. So after this, once we get everything drained, we're actually going to be hanging this to drain the rest of the way. So I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and just drain these. So I just grabbed an old curtain rod, and if you don't have one of those, you can use pretty much anything. And you just want to loosely tie, you don't need to cinch it down. And just let that drain off into a bowl. Let gravity do the work. And this is going to remain like this for about an hour, and this should drain it the rest of the way. Okay, so it's been 60 minutes. And what we're gonna do now is empty the cheese from the cheesecloth right back into the pot. Now I've cleaned the pot and everything beforehand. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set this cheesecloth in the mold, because we're gonna need that in a sec. So now what we're gonna do is break up the cheese into pieces. And you just use your hand, kind of crumple it. It should crumple like this. Kind of crumbly, that's a good sign. And once it's kind of broken up, you're gonna add your cheese salt. And take these big pieces, you know, just kind of crumple them up. Now once you've got the cheese all broken up, like so, we're gonna add our cheese salt. Now you cannot use regular iodized salt or table salt or coarse salt or kosher salt. It's gotta be specifically cheese salt. And we're gonna use 1 tablespoon, and we're gonna go right in the cheese with it. All right, now once that's in, we're gonna go ahead and mix it with our hands. Make sure it's nice and incorporated. Light squeezing, move it all around. All right. Kind of break up those big pieces. It's not gonna hurt it if you get it too small. That's my point. All right. At this point, it should look kind of like that. So what we're gonna do now is head over to the mold and we're gonna start pressing it. All right, so from here, we're gonna put it right into the mold. And you can use different sizes, different shapes if you'd like. I like this one here. It gives it a nice kind of thinner wheel, if you will. And what I'm going to do to keep it easier is I'm going to go ahead and put the pressing schedule on here in just a sec. That way you can see, because we're going to have to change the weight increments every 10 minutes or so, at least for the first part. And then we're going to let it sit for about 12 hours at the heaviest weight. So I will show you how that works in just a sec. All right, so now that we've put all the curd into our cheesecloth lined mold, we're just gonna go ahead and flip this over. Kind of tuck it in, if you will. We're gonna go ahead and put our follower right on top of that. And the first weight is gonna be 10 pounds for about 10 minutes, and then we're gonna flip the cheese. Now there are several different ways you can weigh your press down here, or weigh your mold down. If you don't have a cheese press, you can use a 10-pound object, a 10-pound dumbbell. It doesn't have to be, a fancy cheese press. So here I have a 10-pound steel slug that works perfectly. So in about 10 minutes, we're gonna flip the cheese and we're gonna increase the weight. The cheese has been pressing for about 10 minutes. So what we're gonna do is take the whole thing out here carefully. Kind of unwrap it. Now this part is a little tricky. You want to flip it like so. Back into the cheese mold. Okay. Simply fold this back over. Now for the second step, we're not going to do quite as much of a layer of cheesecloth. So just 1 and 2. All right. There we go. Now for the second round, it's going to be 20 pounds for 10 minutes. I have a 20-pound steel slug here. Go ahead and set this puppy on. And we'll go another 10 minutes. That was 20 pounds at 10 minutes. So what we're going to do now is flip it one more time. And I'm going to take it to the cheese press for the final pressing of the 50 pounds. So got to do another tricky flip here. Now you'll notice obviously it's more firm now, easier to deal with than the first time around. Okay. Wrap it back up. Back into the mold we go. And off to the cheese press. So for the final press, we're going to put it in the cheese press here. I'm going to set it there. And for this stage, we're going to be doing 50 pounds for 12 whole hours. So we're going to be checking on this again tomorrow. So, got everything set up there. And we will set our 50-pound slug up top. Now you want to center it the best you can so you get an even press. And that looks about good. And you can adjust it here with the little wing nuts. All right, and there it will sit for 12 whole hours. See you tomorrow. The time has come. It's been 12 hours, and we are going to take our cheese out of the mold. Take off the follower. And as you can see, it looks a lot like cheese now. wheel of Farmhouse Cheddar. So our Farmhouse Cheddar is complete. We got a nice round shape, nice shiny texture. You can really see this cheese came out pretty well. So what we're going to do is let this air dry for about 2 to 7 days until it's dry to the touch. And then I'm going to toss this baby into the smoker and do a cold smoke on it and have some smoked Farmhouse Cheddar. Thank you all so much for watching, and happy cheese making.